You guys are live.
Everyone, welcome to the October 16th Hartland Selectboard meeting. We're starting at 5:35. The first order of business are two sets of minutes from the October 2nd meeting, the regular Selectboard minutes and the executive session that evening. We'd entertain a motion to accept those.
So
thank you, Tom. A second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mandy. Any discussion?
maybe. No.
Yeah, I wouldn't find anything
Sure.
either.
The only thing I'd like to say is, says the residents of Eastman Road are interested in becoming a town road, in it becoming a town road.
Where's that? It's under the town manager update?
It's under,
Yeah, the interim town manager update, the last
Yeah.
sentence.
I believe so. Yeah, the residents are interested in becoming a town road.
So the residents don't want to become a road?
Well, I don't think so.
Okay, duly noted. Any other changes? All in favor, say aye. Okay, let's go on to the accounts payable or the warrants for through today, October the 16th. Entertain a motion to accept them.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Thank you, Mandy. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions? I'm curious, Martin.
Mm-hmm.
What is a hoist cylinder number 5 for $3,000?
That is the hoist that lifts the bed of the dump truck on the 10-wheeler.
Okay.
Hey, how's our tractor?
The tractor is done. The tractor is due back.
Great. Free of charge. Right?
I wish.
We can talk about that in the update. Well, there's a lot of payments for the intersection. I assume we're coming down the last few yards of this.
We're winding down on them, that's correct. I believe we owe now 22% roughly.
Okay. And did I see the culvert in here for, yes, I did, Jenville Road?
Yes, 5,800.
Yeah,
That's for John Samuels. That's a squash culvert for John Samuels up to Katy Brook.
okay.
I went up there Friday and it looks incredible.
I thought that was a legal trail that we don't have to maintain.
That's correct. But after the flooding, I made the decision to put it in and talk to Phil afterwards. And a lot of townspeople use that access to get up to Katy Brook. So I made the decision to put the culvert in.
You could look at the policy. I think there may be something in the policy that says we do basic maintenance to make sure it's passable. There may be some, I mean, you double check the policy, but I think there's something in there that says
Passport, yeah.
we do basic maintenance to make sure it's passable, but
You're right. So
Yep,
it's,
yeah, we have an ordinance for that.
that's correct.
Yep,
Yeah.
yes.
Um,
And John Panceris is very, very excited because he can get oil now. He's been taking it up 5 gallons at a time.
It would be two if you had a triple bypass and finally.
Exactly.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good. Always amazing to me, put this one piece of paper with we have a few adjustments to the agenda. I would like to add an action to the North Hartland Bridge discussion. Would the board be in favor of doing that?
yes.
All in favor, say aye. Great, thank you. I was remiss to add the discussion of the findings of the Safety and Police Committee, so I'd like to move that under old business. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And we have a guest here this evening to discuss the role of the cemetery sexton in another town. I'd like to move that from that new business item up in front of old business, just to fit it in. Would everyone be in favor of that?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Are there any public comments? Dan?
As you probably know, the Two Rivers Ottaquechee Regional Planning Commission has filed an appeal of the Act 50 permit that was granted on the Sunny. Voted at its last meeting to oppose the project as well. I was in touch with the attorney for Two Rivers, and he explained to me, as best I understand it, is that Two Rivers has perfected the appeal, but the environmental court is quite different than what went on below at the district hearing. It's much less user-friendly, and you know, there's a lot of deadlines and things you have to file, and it's a court proceeding, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so I talked to their attorney about representing us, and of course, we didn't have any, couldn't offer him any financial, what's beyond our, you know, what's in our budget presently. He has agreed, at any rate, to file a notice of appearance for us, and so we're basically in on Two Rivers dime. And but he wants to know whether the select board, which is also a party to the proceedings, would want to also file a notice of appearance. He would do that for us as a very preliminary matter.
Mm-hmm.
The real decisions are going to be further down the road as to how much actual representation we want to do at the hearings themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be, depending on how things go, you know, filing written arguments and calling witnesses, things like that, that could get much more involved legally. So that's down the road. So but at least we get the appeal. It gets us, you know, party status to that appeal. We'd appreciate it if the select board also at least would take that step, but and we could maybe discuss down the road, you know, what the financial ramifications of that are. But in just entering an appearance,
Can you repeat that last part?
we could discuss later on what the financial ramifications of that might be. But at least to file an appearance would at least get on the record that parties to the proceedings, at least two of the parties in town, the planning commission and the select board did file a notice of appearance in the matter. So, I don't know, David.
I would, you should understand that by going to the environmental court, that all the findings from the District 3 Commission are out the window. So they actually start the whole review process from scratch. And that's things that we've already talked about implication on different things. I don't think it's as much legal as maybe it sounds, because we're still responsible for doing exactly what we did, only we have a different judge this time. That's what's happened. So it's not as though there's, hundreds of thousands of dollars of legal fees, as long as you have the plan commission, to sort of lead the way. But it is important for the town to we think, and that's why we voted unanimously to ask you just to join in, not that you have to be active participants or pony up lots of dollars. It's just that, I guess if you think of it this way, that Hartland is one of 30 towns in the Regional Planning Commission. And those towns, stretch from Windsor to Stockbridge and everywhere else. And the majority of those towns wanted the Two Rivers Commission to appeal it because there's some very adverse things that have to do with village vitality. And we think that since obviously it's important, the town has just spent $1.5 million or $2 million beautifying the village.
Jay, Mr. Gregory did not convey that 47 towns in the district are looking for this. He would have said that to me. So is that a fact, or?
We were told by Peter.
We were told? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That the Regional Planning Commission, the members of the board, or the town members, had voted.
Okay, that's not important. The issue is the.
Yeah, we have a representative. Charles Jeffries is our representative, so he reported to us that was the vote.
Well, their board of directors made a vote to approve it, but not the regional towns.
Were supportive of that. So.
Yeah. Okay.
So I just want a clarification. The notice of appearance does not necessarily mean that you're going to take a position within the appeals process. What it does do is allows you to get all the information.
Yes, I mean, it keeps you abreast of it, but I think that the assumption is if you file a notice of appearance that you want to be heard.
That's not true. You have a notice, so you just can keep.
Okay.
And
I have no experience in the. In
I've already received that notice of appearance that we're on the list. So unless there's a new list, which I haven't received, but.
What list?
I'm sorry?
You're on which list?
A notice of appearance for receiving the documents.
Yes, you are, in other words, you're a party, so you get notice of what goes on, but you have to file a notice of appearance to make an argument to be heard at the proceeding. And so that's what we're doing, because we want to be heard, and we would so the notice of appearance is different than just being a party. It gives you the opportunity to file. You can always decide later you don't want to follow through with it, but at least at this stage, it gives you the right to appear before the court and make an argument. If once you do that, you have to file. There's a lot of pre-filing, and again, I'm not that experienced or knowledgeable of it, but my understanding is that at the outset, you file what I think they're even called questions, a list of questions of what you want the court to, what issues you want the court to consider, and you have to notify the parties of that. So that's a procedural hurdle, and that's one of the things we can do. But I guess when I'm getting back to the attorney for Two Rivers and following through with his at least filing the notice of appearance for us, he wanted to know whether we would add the select board also wanted to file a notice of appearance. And you can hold off on just what that might entail or what position you even want to take down the road, but it gets you into court as a party, not just a, I don't know what the term would be, but, every abutting landowner is entitled to notice. But and similarly, they can all file a notice of appearance if they want to be heard. If they don't, the deadline is in a couple of days, but at least now I think they gain some time because they don't have to file an appeal within the deadline. That's been done, and they can also be in the same position we're in, which is to file a notice of appearance. I think it's another 14 days. I'm not sure of that. It's soon, so you want to.
We came here tonight because we originally thought the deadline was the 18th, 2 more days. And you hadn't met, this was your first meeting, and that's why we're right here tonight, just to let you know. Not asking you to say what you're going to do, because who knows what you're going to do. But if you want a forum, now's the time.
Yeah. So just full disclosure, Peter Raymond, who's the attorney, is also the attorney who works for us as well. So I called him on Friday and I said, we haven't even talked about this as a select board yet, really uncomfortable and.
Oh, okay.
That's all right.
So he knows, yeah. I didn't know what to tell him.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
good.
fine.
All right.
And so just for the board's sake is we can ask for that, but we don't necessarily, it's not stating that we have a position.
Right.
Because we're just asking basically for information and the ability, if we wanted to either support the regional planning commission or support the applicant. So right now, we've had zero discussion on this, but.
So if we don't do this within the next 2 days, it's kind of.
No, I think you've got a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we have a
we
little
don't need
bit
it
more
for 3
time.
weeks.
So we can.
But it's soon. I mean, I don't think, you might not have another meeting before, or if it is, you're gonna get, you're right at the deadline at that meeting, so,
Our next meeting is 3 weeks, I believe, because we.
I'm sorry?
Our next meeting is 3 weeks away,
Mhm.
so we would not meet again before
For 2 weeks away.
3.
Yeah, this is the odd month. It's 3 weeks.
if we get more Mondays in a month.
Okay.
It's like a
I think we're gonna have meetings in between then for executive sessions, but
Yeah, I think
that's beside the point. Do we have a firm date? So this is not warned and
firm date
for when we would need to.
I don't recall, I think it's, and again, I think,
Yeah,
it's 2 weeks from the day that they filed their appeal, which I believe was either yesterday or Friday. I forget when we got notice of it. You might have.
yeah, I've had it some time now.
Well, they didn't file their appeal until.
There's been a lot of emails flying around from
No, but we
attorneys.
were
and I
actually,
never
this
even
wouldn't have
know
been just an
who's-
email, it would have been notice from a service.
I'd rather I'm not gonna go down
Certificate of
there.
service from them, that they had from Two Rivers, that they had filed an appeal, and that was only within a few days. That they would.
Kurt Peterson has a response.
I hope.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Him until we'll show.
Yeah. So I don't know what I'm gonna definitely, I guess, if we don't have an answer by tonight, I have to tell him, well, you've already been in touch with him, so that's good. So he sort of knows what's down the pipe, but I'll tell him, say, he can follow through with the notice of appearance for us, have to wait to hear from you whether.
Yeah.
So the appeal was the 12th. So it'd be 2 weeks from last Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, I just will say that the only thing that, tactically, it's certainly, and our position is enhanced if it was at least a showing of support.
And it sounds like it's in our best interest to do the paperwork, whether or not we move forward with any arguments later.
I'm sorry?
It sounds like it's in our best interest to do the paperwork, to file the notice of appeal. But if we decide not to participate later on, we can do that.
Yeah, that's all you have to do, and you
If we
really
don't
have to
file,
make
then
no
we have
other
no
appearance,
choice.
with the case, and, unless you decide, you wouldn't have to take a position one way or the other, but at least you have to do this to preserve your right to take a position.
Made it clear, it just,
But procedurally, we're screwed,
I just texted Peter to see what time he gets back.
Yeah, we just said procedurally, we're in this bind right now where, for us to take an action to do that, something that's not warned at all.
Yeah,
We'd have to do a special meeting.
Yeah.
Probably should invite Two Rivers and just have them talk about what they're thinking.
I mean, there must be a procedure, if you did want to expedite it, there must be a procedure to get a warning to do it, so. But
And I imagine we will have an executive session between now and then for other reasons.
Yeah, but this would be warned as a special meeting at least 2 days in advance.
18th of this month.
that's.
Is when it's due, so 2 days. So,
That's, I think, though, that was when the appeals were due.
This is from Peter.
18th.
The 18th is when that was the appeal deadline. He thinks that was your deadline as well?
I believe the Hartland PC has my attorney filing a notice of appeal. The deadline is the 18th of this month.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood him then, because I understood.
It's just notice of appeal, not notice of appearance.
Appeal.
He's right, if we have to file a notice of appeal, yeah, we have to do it. And we're gonna be under that deadline, because we're gonna contact them,
Yeah.
right after this, but,
Tomorrow is our contact date with the attorney.
Yeah,
That's what you told me, right?
yeah.
He knows it's coming.
yeah, so he knows it's coming from us, and he wanted to know but he wanted to know, as best we could tell him, is whether the select board, I said, well, I'll go to the select board meeting, and I'll ask. So here we are.
so filing for the notice of appeal you're not declaring a position, you're just basically creating a placeholder. So if you don't do it, you can't have a position, that essentially.
Right, but
Understanding
it's, as Phil said, we've never warned this, it's not like, we're talking about how often we should cut the lawn, this is certainly a pretty big deal. I think the other thing we could do is just work with, if we had concerns or whatever, we could work with the planning commission, since they're already gonna have their notice.
Which is more or less what we did on the first round.
Yeah, but there's, it's fair to tell you that there could be a substantial financial commitment.
That depends on how active and that's one of the things I talked
That's right.
to Peter about,
Yeah, we get.
and then you folks need to come back to us and say, and
That's
talk to Peter, and
That's
say,
right.
because these can get very, very expensive.
Huh?
They can get very, very expensive.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
You know,
No-
20,
no
30,
question about it.
$40,000.
And we're not in the same, it's not like, the planning commission can sit down and write an argument, a legal argument like we did below. It's, it's much more sophisticated once you
Right,
report.
exactly.
This is a court proceeding,
Yeah.
and appealable directly to the Vermont Supreme Court, so.
And I've been thinking about this and, going to Jay's point, there are 40-something towns.
30. Peter, there's 34.
Okay. They're basically using the town's monies, our monies, and the other towns for this appeal. So it's got to be, obviously their board wants to do it, so that's
right, that's where their budget comes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, I think that's the best we can do.
Yeah, all right, well, just, I guess what we would ask is just communicate to us as soon as you can, because it would just help us just to understand them.
Yeah.
And also will affect our decisions down the road, because we're not in a position to make a full-on commitment to that attorney at this point.
Yeah, to Tom's point, I do worry that about incurring legal fees.
Oh, yeah.
On our part. So that's something we have to just clarify to make sure that neither party, you
Right.
or us per se.
And even if you prevail below and it takes the appeal and you oppose that, you still have legal fees defending the environmental court's decision on, so it's, we can't get into these things lightly.
Yeah.
So mostly it's, our interest is that you're fully aware of what's going on, that we're gonna need some help if we decide to go forward. And we're of course very interested in what your position is on expanding the village. So I guess we're anxious to see what you guys decide, but we don't want you to miss the opportunity to participate.
Yes, it's good that Tom has it, knows Peter better than I do.
Well, thank you. Are there any other questions for?
No, I think just kind of from my own perspective, we're not passing judgment on whether it's a good business or not. We're really, just defending the town plan, because without the town plan, we have no control over development.
Yeah, that's primarily our position, is that we feel quite strongly that it's against the town plan, whether this project is a good project, whether it'll help the town or not. We didn't take a position on that, but we just said that our town plan reads it a certain way, the commission read it another way, and that's really the problem with using town plans to do environmental planning. That's a much bigger issue.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? So is that the basis around the planning commission for the appeal, is that it doesn't fit within the town plan?
Yeah, that was our position below. It didn't fit within the town plan, and they didn't agree with that in their decision. So we think they're wrong. And Two Rivers certainly thinks they're wrong.
Well, in essence, they're redrawing the village lines.
Yeah, let's not get into
Sorry.
Okay. Any other? Okay, again, thank you.
Kurt Peterson, so let me read his.
Yeah.
Kurt Peterson says, people I've talked to about the store are in favor, including the three major businesses and Three Corners. I understand the planning commission should have an opinion one way or the other. Does Two Rivers Board represent the residents of the Hartland? I don't think so. I would like to know what their reason is opposing the state's approval.
Yeah.
Kurt, I'm gonna unmute you.
I'm gonna sit down.
It's for public comment.
Yeah, we're not supposed to be having a discussion on public comments.
Kurt, I can't unmute you. You gotta unmute yourself.
Kurt Peterson can't unmute.
They won't let me unmute him.
What's that?
There you go. Thank you, Kurt.
Yes? Did you want to ask me a question or what? Why did you?
You had a question in the chat.
You had a question?
Yes,
Would you like to-
I'm listening, and I'm curious as to whether or not on what basis the regional commission is opposing the farm store. Is it to impose our town plan, or do they think it's just a bad idea, or do they think that the people in town don't want it? And
no, there's a regional plan that they have, and they feel that it doesn't conform to that.
So if you want to get into the weeds, what they're appealing is criterion 9L, which is basically the rural nature. And 9L is a very underutilized criterion in Act 250. And they feel that the determination made by the district commission could be precedent setting. So you can go look up Act 250 9L.
Yeah, so my other question was that the select board's primary job isn't really to enforce the town plan, it's really to represent the people. And I'm wondering what a reason would be for the select board to join in something that sounds like the opposition to the farm store without.
No, we can't get into that tonight, Kurt.
We're not getting into that. We made it clear twice tonight. We are not taking a position. We were
Okay,
asking for information, and due to the lateness of it, we're not probably even going to be able to get a notice of appeal. So the planning commission will get that.
And it goes to the
Thank you.
very point that something like this has to be warned, so there is a public discussion.
And we really need to talk about it publicly so people can come and hear, we can hear them, they can hear us.
And just, we had no illusions that this is a slam dunk publicly, so.
Right, yeah.
Thanks, Kurt. Anything else?
No, you know.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Let me introduce.
Yeah.
Hey, Bruce, come on up.
Okay.
So, Chair, let me introduce you, Bruce. So, I've had the pleasure of knowing and working with Bruce for over 20 years. He is, what's that? 40 years. He is the Cavendish sexton for the cemetery committee. And over the last several months, he and I have had a lot of conversations about how the town of Cavendish handles their cemetery and the like. So I just thought it would be a good idea to bring in Bruce. They have a very successful program.
Bruce, what we're hoping to do tonight is to hear you, and as we would like to set up a model for our cemeteries.
Yes.
Could you maybe start by telling us what a cemetery sexton does?
Well, there's two ways to operate a cemetery, public cemetery in Vermont. One is for the select board to be in charge of it. The other is for there to be a separate cemetery commission. There's still a number of towns that have that. It's kind of like, I regard them as like a library. You know, they have their own board of trustees. They do their own hiring. They're paid generally by towns, but they're a separate entity in themselves. In 2016, Cavendish decided to disband the cemetery commission and put it under the oversight of the select board, and they appointed me at that time. So the quick answer is anything to do with the cemeteries is the sexton's responsibility.
Okay.
And it's actually, it's right down there too. I brought enough copies. A lot of the questions you're going to have are going to be answered in our cemetery rules and regulations, which I drafted back in 2015. Do you have, you don't have a sexton now?
We have a committee.
Okay. Well, is it, are they their own entity, or are they under your control?
We're under the select board, under the town.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we'd keep it like that. I know I'm familiar with Hartland, of course. My parents lived in Windsor. Grandparents lived up here. I know there's a cemetery on Route 5, right by the dairy farm. Very nice condition.
It's there. Yeah.
There's a cemetery down here that you would take to go down to towards the railroad tracks.
Yes.
That's I think
That's a private.
that one is private.
Yeah.
The church one?
It was the Hartland Cemetery Association that was founded in the 1890s.
Yep.
And they're still active and
Okay.
Yeah.
So that appears to be in excellent condition.
Yes.
That one.
Yes.
Who sells the lots in your town?
they do.
For all cemeteries?
No, we only have two active cemeteries.
And where are they?
There's the one over here,
Yep.
there's the Jennyville Cemetery,
Okay,
which
I
is
know
a
that one.
private association.
Okay, Jennyville is their own private association.
Yep,
Okay, so if you want to buy a lot in the Jennyville Cemetery, how would you go about it?
you talk to me,
Okay,
because president of the association.
Okay, and do you have room for years of burials?
Yeah, because we voted 3 years ago, I guess, to only allow cremations. And so we can fit in more per,
How many are you putting in per grave?
we've set 3 per grave.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we've probably got room to put in another 200.
Okay, yeah. Do you, any room for expansion? Like adjacent land or,
No,
okay. Do you,
So can I just ask a question? But that's a private association.
right,
And the one over here is a private
Right.
association.
yeah.
So there's no town.
Those two are open. We do have town cemeteries, but
Right.
we don't know if we can open them or not because we don't know how much space we have in V.A. All right.
13 more, besides the 2 private ones, there are 13 other cemeteries in town.
13,
Yeah,
any of them large?
not really.
Weed's pretty big.
Jennyville is the second largest to this one over here.
The Wheat Cemetery is,
Up on top of the hill.
yeah, I know where that is too. As you're talking about them, I'm realizing I do know where they are. When you, our lot prices, whether they're the town lot or the private, our lot prices are listed there. For example, do you put cornerstones in?
No,
No? Okay. Where, after a burial, what happens to the burial transit permit?
it's recorded.
It does come to the town office?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that's all legal.
So Bruce, I think what we're trying to figure out is whether we can open up other cemeteries. So there are people that have lived in certain areas of town. There's a cemetery nearby and they would like to have their beloved one placed in some of these, but where we struggle is whether there's room within the confines or whether, you sort of.
Well, you can,
And so how does one go about figuring out where sort of the last row of graves are or whatever?
well, you can, you know, of course, where the last row of graves are. You can probe you use a fiberglass probe to go down. Do you require burial vaults?
No, we don't.
You wouldn't with cremations. But anyway, you can still, you can work the soil enough that you can tell whether something's down there. And if there really were felt the need to do it, there's ground radar that will absolutely pinpoint whether burials have occurred there or not. Are those cemeteries surveyed?
They're mapped. Do you call
Yeah.
it surveyed? They're all
I
mapped.
doubt if the only survey that I know of is the one over here, because most of these, the 13, start in 1800.
Yes, yeah.
So,
Well, one thing about those early cemeteries, and I've been trying to stress this in Cavendish, is in order to save land, if you have family ties that go back to a burial that might have even occurred in the 1840s, and it's a cremation, you can be buried there if the family is in agreement.
Buried on top?
Yes. Yeah, we sell our plots of 5 graves, and we label them A, B, C, D, and E. If someone is buried in a full burial, which actually doesn't happen very much anymore, they go in as a full burial. Of course, they go the 6 feet under, in a burial vault, the soil goes above it. We allow 3 cremation graves in each one of those spots. So if it worked out this way, where you had 5 full burials in a plot, and then 3 cremation burials for each one, you have room for 20 people.
yeah.
And that was my whole intention on this, was to save land.
Bruce, can you talk a little bit about the 2 ways you mentioned to explore where the actual plots are. One was the rod and the other one was,
Rad penetrating radar.
yeah,
It's, the one, if you were to appoint a sexton, come spring, as long as you have those, not necessarily surveys, but plat plans, if I had them, one for the cemeteries, made a copy of them, I would be able to go out and find where your room is.
and create, then you would be able to create that matrix or that survey.
Yes.
That would
Yep.
be, okay.
I don't want the maps to ever leave the town office. So if I have a question about a burial as to where I'm gonna pass that around, that's one of our maps. If I'm going to research a grave, I just take a photo of that, and then I go up, I know the general area, and then I'll say, okay, yeah, the Thompson grave is here, and the Jones grave is here. That must be the grave I'm talking about, because they don't, when you bury people, they don't go in a row down the line because of how the lots are bought. There's always spaces. So I would.
So we're thinking of doing a pilot where we try to see if we could open one or two sites that would then be town maintained. I mean, they're all maintained by the town, but not all, but you mean open them. So,
yeah, I'd be happy to help you with that. You do perpetual care on the Jennyville Cemetery?
We don't add for it, we flat out charge $600 per grave. Yeah, and I guess most of it goes into of course, we haven't sold any lots for, I guess the last one we sold one last year, but not many. We kind of hint at it being people who live in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Family ties.
Yeah, you'll see our, one of the things about the sexton is I reserve the right to tell somebody that, you're from Pennsylvania, but I knew you grew up here as a child and your grandparents and everyone else. Yes, I'll sell you a plot. If you're from Pennsylvania, you have no ties to Cavendish, except that you think it's pretty, and you want to save a lot of money as opposed to buying a plot outside of Philadelphia, I will say no. They'll gobble up the land fast if they go, especially Jennyville. Such a beautiful spot.
So Bruce, it looks like in the document that you gave us, it's fairly inclusive of from what motor vehicles can be down to the monuments, headstones, and so on and so forth. I guess what we might do is basically pass this along to our very active cemetery committee and begin to, if we could, use this document as a guide to, if we won't have a section, we'll still maintain the committee structure.
Now,
and then maybe look at a spring project to identify what it would mean to go forward, and then that would also give us a sense of what the total cost would be going forward.
Okay, we have in our perpetual care account, we presently have $155,000.
What does that mean? I don't know what a perpetual care account is.
Perpetual care, I don't know the exact year it started. It was probably in the 1890s. It enabled cemeteries when selling a lot to take a portion of that money, the perpetual care, to go into perpetual care fund, and it was for maintenance of the ground,
of the whole ground.
Yeah, but not stones. People think that perpetual care means that
Sure.
stones will be automatically cleaned, and it's not the case. Now, for the town of Cavendish cemetery budget, I'm paid $7,200 a year, 6-month period, May to November. 3,000 of that is taken from the trustees of public funds every year to me. My budget for the cemetery for this year was $18,320. $18,320. That includes $10,000 of labor costs. This is for the guys that I supervise that do the mowing and the string trimming and all of that.
Yeah.
Parts and equipment, $1,200, insurance and so forth. An equipment fund, which we put in every year, $500 for the inevitable day that one of those pieces of equipment will have to be replaced. It's not enough, it never is. A mapping fund, which is what we have, funds that are available if I need the services of a surveyor or someone to just assist with the actual land matter concerning that cemetery. So.
Do you have a tree cutting budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's separate then?
Yeah, the tree cutting budget is actually in the town budget.
Okay, which is what it is for us.
So, and if that 18,000 comes out of your perpetual care budget, part of it?
No, only 3,000.
Only 3. The rest comes out of the town.
Out of the town taxes, yes.
And are you just trying to make the sexton in the 22nd century be a millionaire, or what? Are we,
Yeah, the sexton also gets burial fees, which are, it's a good chunk of change. So it'll be a job if somebody enjoys it, working with people sometimes at a tough time of their life. And also the calls go on all winter long with people that are inquiring as to whether there's space available or not. It's fun. I love doing it. What do you goal? You like you like fooling around in cemeteries, but I kind of like them. Not kind of, I like them. I always have, especially Vermont ones. So that's what you need, though. If you want a section, you gotta have, you want somebody that I can tell you it was an appreciation for the whole purpose of the cemetery.
And the history of them as
well. And the history, and be an advocate for them.
How many burials a year do you do?
About 15. And 90% of them now are cremation.
And the state has just approved green burials. So
yeah, it's a section in there about green burials.
Okay.
There was just, when I wrote those regulations in 2015, that was just starting. Basically, I think I said something about there's more to learn.
Yeah, okay. Good. Any other questions for Bruce? Okay,
Sarah Bruce has a question.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. I was just going to bring up something that Phil just mentioned, and I don't think you want to discuss this tonight, but I would request that the Hartland Cemetery group, committee, section, what have you, keep in mind green burials. I know they are now permitted at the cemetery next to the brick church. Clearly, they're out of the question in Jennyville, and Clyde said there are only those 2 cemeteries available. So please just maintain the possibility of green burials. It requires no headstones. And I do believe after a relatively short period of time, the space can be reused. I think it's a matter of a couple years. I'd have to look up as to that.
Thank you, Sarah. Yep.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
That's all I got.
I was wondering, maybe over the winter, if we could hire Bruce for a short period of time to maybe look at a couple of our maps and see where we might be able to begin and look around or something like that to kind of get things started. So just, I'll bring it up during budget time, but,
Yeah.
you know,
And we should also just get a feel for how much it would cost for a prototype.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But as I think we discussed in the past, we were thinking just doing a pilot of 1 or 2 cemeteries. So obviously we're trying to find one that both has room and it's easiest to do.
When the snow melts early.
No, are they, the people that are operating the cemetery that's part of the church, they're funding themselves entirely?
Yes.
Yeah, it actually is not part of the church, it's just by the church,
Okay,
completely separate.
Yes.
But they have an endowment
yeah,
Yes.
good.
plus,
So they must have maybe not a sexton in name, but they have somebody overseeing.
No, we have a
Yeah.
sexton. We have a sexton.
You do?
Yes.
Richard Brusso.
Yes, correct.
Because I knew somebody cared about that place.
Yeah, we have about $460,000.
Well, that's, yeah, you're good. How much space left?
Lots of space. And we started green burials last year too.
Have you done one?
We've done 3 or 4.
We have none. Although they're allowed.
Well, Bruce, thanks for coming.
Well, yeah, thank you so much, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
Well, you could call them if you've got questions about, since you operate a cemetery as well. And you too, you can call me at home,
Okay,
get the number from Tom.
all right, thank you.
And thanks for the handout, Bruce.
Yeah, it's a good ordinance to see.
I'm Bruce McEnany. My grandparents were Danas and Sykes and Cushmans.
Okay.
All up in that part of the country.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Bruce. Thanks, Bruce.
Have a nice evening.
Okay. We're going to move to the police and safety. So Mandy, it's yours.
Do you guys want to come up? And so if you have anything to add, you're part of the discussion. Chris, this is the updated version, and I gave everyone
We haven't read this yet, so,
how is the press?
okay. So I
And
just
so
wanted to make sure.
I'm just gonna read through it. It's kind of our notes and it's for you. So, first of all, a great deal of thanks to everyone on the committee. Chris was amazing with her minutes and typing, and it was very, very helpful. So it was a great group of individuals that offered a lot of thoughts. There was a lot of really good, respectful and open conversations, I think. So it was truly a good group to work with. So that's the first. The members on the committee were Trace Tancredi, who's here, Chris Nittenberg, that's here, Tom Kennedy and myself, both on the board, Lindsay Perkins, she's the principal at the Hartland Elementary School, Robin Mosier, and Alan Beebe. Alan Beebe is the director of the rescue squad. The purpose, taken directly from the charge that Phil gave to us, is of the Safety and Policing Committee, is to define what is meant by safety in Hartland, prioritize those needs, create recommendations on how to achieve those identified needs, and draft a budget associated with those recommendations. The committee's findings shall be delivered to the select board in a report, which is here. Background information, police calls that occurred within Hartland were reviewed to determine the current needs of the town. The committee had a community forum and routinely encouraged input from Hartland residents. The committee invited Windsor Police Chief Jen Frank to come in and discuss the Student Resource Officer Program, background on current policing practices, the roles of different law enforcement agencies, training levels, and what they meant for safety. Windsor County Sheriff Palmer was also invited to answer additional questions and give a better understanding of the Sheriff Department's any recent changes. Some members of the committee also went on ride-alongs for real-time understanding of policing. Findings: after reviewing the call volume in Hartland, it was determined that there were approximately 1,087 calls for serviced during an 18-month time frame that was handled by V.S.A or Vermont State Police or Windsor County Sheriff. And the following were determined as priorities. Response time is generally well beyond the averages for state and for other municipal services such as fire and EMS. This is a challenge for Hartland due to the size, the amount of dirt roads, and calls that are currently being handled by Vermont State Police. Vermont State Police is currently unable to meet the coverage hours of Hartland. Level of training recommended is level 3. Although Vermont State Police has all level 3 certified officers who are well trained, they are no longer able to meet the needs of the community. Level 3 certified officers can investigate all call types and have gone through the full academy, which would also include mental health training. Community-focused policing. Officers who know the community, are accessible in various formats to get input from townspeople, know different layers of the community, work to prevent and educate to create perception by the townspeople. Traffic control. Over 50% of the calls in Hartland were related to motor vehicles in some way, whether it was motor vehicle accidents, motor vehicle stops, motor vehicle thefts, etc. This shows a need for enforcement. The Safety and Policing Committee recommendations, we recommend police response time as being the top priority for the select board when considering a good fit for the safety of the town of Hartland. Response time would largely be based on distance and availability. Currently, the closest full-time departments are Windsor Police Department, Woodstock Police Department, and Hartford Police Departments. The committee recommends looking at the current contract between Windsor Police Department and West Windsor, the town of West Windsor. The committee would recommend raising the police budget to cover 24-hour emergency police coverage and patrols of approximately 30 to 40 hours of time in Hartland and reassess in 1 year. Currently, the town of Hartland has approximately $80,000 for policing needs allocated in the budget. This includes both Vermont State Police's and the constable's budget. This amount is far less than any other local town. The committee would recommend a minimum of 90% of the staffing of the police agency that we contract with to be level 3 certified officers. Windsor County Sheriff currently staffs 22 officers, 12 are level 3 and 10 are level 2, which is approximately 55% level 3 certified officers. Windsor Police Department currently staffs 12 officers. 11 are level 3 and 1 is level 2, which is approximately 92%. Long-term goals. At this time, they're unknown, but could possibly consist of a town-run police department based on the needs, recommendation, and call volumes, as well as, this was a version that I had some edits, so I apologize, as well as any type of community typed policing. I forget what our exact wording was.
But using community supports.
Community resource policing.
To augment the police services.
It is suggested to the select board that the safety and policing community meet quarterly to discuss and assess the safety and police needs of Hartland for at least 1 year, which would include sending out a town-wide survey to get feedback to the changes and to identify ongoing areas of concern, opportunities to identify community resources, suggestions, complaints, and in preparation for planning for future changes in budgeting.
There's one more question.
Sure.
The 30 to 40 hours, is that weekly, monthly?
Oh, weekly, sorry. Which is an increase of, right now, it's 15 hours is what we have contracted for Vermont State Police, so it would be doubling or more with the current.
Yeah, in theory, we'd have another 15 from a constable if everything is covered. So we'd be at almost.
If we decided to continue the constable.
Yeah, right, but I mean, in today's world, if everything was fully covered, we'd be close to 30.
Do you have anything to add? Did I miss anything in here?
No, just that we did look at the Westminster contract as one example. I think it was 15 to 20 hours is what they were providing, and we looked at that compared to the needs of our town, the size and diversity there too, which is one of the reasons that we came up with that kind of number.
Yep.
Plus the 24-hour policing, which was another surprise for us, I think, well, was for me certainly, to learn that the policing only goes to a certain point and then it kind of shuts off, and then it's for state police if they're around. So the 24-hour policing also seemed to be a concern of community members. I think folks
Yeah, so currently, right now, state police, after 2 a.m., they're on call. So you would call in and they would dispatch whoever was on call for the trooper.
Meaning they could be home.
They would be home.
So
Yeah.
are you saying that the Windsor Police offer 24-hour service?
within their contracts, they provide.
That's their contract with West Windsor, not with us. that would.
No,
they would
I
be
understand, I
okay.
understand that. We don't have a contract.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, like patrol hours.
Mhm.
Are we talking 9 to 5, or are we talking like worse times, the most?
So as I spoke with Chief Frank actually, and, we talked, I had called to ask about the contract with West Windsor, just to take a look at what a neighboring town does. What do they do? And she said it wouldn't be a set hours, it wouldn't be, you wouldn't want a police officer in town Monday through Friday, noon to 4, right? Because, the majority of crime probably happens nights, weekends, those sorts of things, off hours. And I know in West Windsor, when they first started, they would each shift have a police officer spend time in West Windsor. I believe they currently still do.
That's what
That was my recollection of the conversation with her.
I think one of the things we also recognize is the importance of having a presence in town that was varied, intermittent, consistently. You didn't really know where the police were going to be, but they were going to be there. So, and that certainly was one of the things that we learned from some of the policing efforts. Because otherwise it's the same, like everybody knows, to slow down right by the fire station, because that's where the cops would hang out. It doesn't really serve the rest of the town. So we were really looking at how to get that sense across the town for the safety of all of our townspeople.
I'd love to hear from Trace and Tom if there's additional comments.
I just was thinking we should probably do a census check just to do a comparison of how many people have moved in since the pandemic, to give us an idea of what, we've really had the explosion that everyone seems to be talking about around this area. So until that happens, can't really use that as a note.
Sure. Yeah. Tom, any thoughts?
No, I think they captured it very, very well. We felt that we would provide a framework and then sort of leave it up to the board to get into the details, Jim, like hours and all that kind of thing. We're just, we just felt that a lot of this is going to be determined by how much it costs. And also, I think we didn't necessarily want to tell a police department how they should run their business. Yeah, they're the experts. We need to respect that. One last thing is, when we did have our public meeting, it was surprising how supportive people were as far as increasing police presence, but also to having a mental health and a sort of a community policing aspect to it, that they just didn't want a bunch of hard people there just pulling people over, arresting them, or ticketing them all the time. And so we learned a lot.
The level 3, I think I heard, has some mental health training.
So level 3 will go through the full-time academy, and they do offer that as part of the police package.
So
training.
What's missing from a level 2?
I don't know the exact.
Is the highest.
Yeah, I mean, their level 2 is their
Level 2
part-time
cannot
officers,
investigate.
and they can't investigate certain calls. They can't, so they can go and basically hold the scene, but they can't. They'd have to wait till a level 3 officer arrived on scene. As far as what the coursework is, I'm not sure. I'd have to look at state police website for training.
I would guess that like 80% of our calls don't require a level 3 investigation. They just require somebody with the power to arrest.
So one of the things we inferred from a level 3 is you may have better training, and whereas you may be a better trained officer.
Yep.
And so hopefully we don't need to have a lot of investigations, but we also felt that we wanted to make sure that there were officers who are competent, in good shape, and the like. So
Sure. And we all know that serious investigations would be conducted by the Vermont State Police. They're not going away on that part. They would supplement what's needed. I want to say a few things. First, thank you to you four and to the other members who aren't here tonight. This has been something which we've been dancing around for some time as the state police changed their role within the whole of the state. And we all have known at various times there's been incidents in our neighborhoods of one sort or another. So you took the charge and you ran with it, and I think we now have a template, which is what I was hoping for us to make some decisions and to go forward. I also like the idea that you were looking forward. I think we've all watched the national media news in the past years with policing and intercity issues, but we're also very aware of that whole idea of that community policing. And the trends are changing, so thank you for considering those. And I think as we look to make some decisions, I really see this as building blocks, much like you've laid out here. I do have one question, I have two questions. With Lindsay Perkins, was there any discussion of the school resource officer? And how does that fit with the overall kind of town policing?
So I have spoken with Lindsay a couple of times, and she has indicated at meetings that they're very happy with Officer Paul is what they call him. It's Paul Favreau. He's the student resource officer, school resource officer. All good feedback. And I know that they've talked about when Chief Frank was here, there was a lot of, he works with the children and gets builds a rapport with them. So he has a better feeling or understanding of the home life as well. Do you agree with that?
Exactly. That was like the important connection, because there's a lot that you can learn about what's going on in town through kids in school. And so that felt like an incredibly rich resource, as well as the whole referral possibilities when trouble's brewing.
Is Lindsay on? She's not on tonight, is she?
Do you foresee, from your brief discussions about this, that we as a board should collaborate with the school board, and as we make a decision on safety and policing, to make this one decision so that we're possibly under one contract, or was that really a separate?
I think it's a separate thing, and it's under their budget, they pay for it. I think they're quite happy.
I think they're very happy.
What they have, so I would say, as we move forward, at least initially, they're happy, let them do their thing.
Yeah.
And then maybe over time, if we want to try to integrate it, but.
Or I think the other thing to think about is how to make sure that whatever we bring in becomes seamless with what's already in place and working. So however that interface is, that's going to be.
Yeah, if we hire Hartford, what's the impact on the school?
Well, then I think we need to figure that out, exactly.
Exactly.
Response time seemed to be clearly was talked about the evening of the public. I think it's been talked about, as detrimental for the school when they needed their own school resource officer for that. Kate Bell asked a question that I found myself just wondering. When we were at the public meeting, she said, do we know what the response time is within Hartford, within Windsor? Because if we're trying to compare response time of Hartland from Windsor, then that's going to, in my mind, be more. So do we know what the basic response time is within that?
You'd have to pull calls, which can be a little bit cumbersome. So, I mean,
we can ask Windsor how they bill themselves, kind of like, what do they say to the community?
Yeah.
I mean, if they have to go out to the hinterland of.
I mean, I think Chris actually, did you drive or?
No, I actually pulled up on Google. I sort of thought, well, let's just look at what is the potential for how quickly could various places, so I just took the Windsor Police Station and timed it out to your house. It was one place I did. I think that was 17 minutes, and 22 to somewhere out on Garden Hill Road, and then maybe something similar out to North Hartland. So I looked at what would be possible if I was driving there, you were driving there, what's possible, and then use that as a gauge for any adjoining town if they can do something within that time. It's sort of within the half hour was the kind of number that we were throwing around, that if you could get response in half an hour, that would be pretty darn good for us in town and people would feel safer.
I know that there was an emergency in town. It was a high priority call. Just recently, within the past week or so, and Vermont State Police gave a 25 to 30-minute response time. So they called Windsor for mutual aid, and Windsor was there within 5 minutes and stayed on scene for an hour. Till they got there. So
and
those will be questions I would hope that you'll be asking when you talk to candidates or close people with the proposal.
So it's just the one that seemed one of the 4 or 5 reasons you have here that's percolated to the top. I don't know if they're in priority order, but response time seems to be just really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me again about once we implement a decision and start down the road of whatever we're going to do. You were talking about trying to have some metrics as to how we're doing and keeping a committee together to meet quarterly or something like that.
Just as a way to check in, hopefully whoever we have come on board, whether it's, whoever it is, they could come in with us, have an open discussion with them, what's going well, what the feedback is with the town. I think we talked about a survey to see, get a better feel for what people really want long-term. I mean, we heard things such as, community-based type policing, all the way up to let's turn North Hartland School into a police department. So, there was a small handful, a small piece of a very big,
Yeah, the Planning Commission Town Survey has a question, if I can recall it, is would you like the town to increase they don't say funding, increase resources for a fire department and then.
I did see that.
So it would be interesting if we can glean information from that question.
I think Jim Martin brought up something at the open meeting, which was sort of like, hey, there's a small group of people here and I mean, we've talked about that some in our meeting. Do they really represent what all the folks in town want? And so we were just interested to make sure that people did feel heard and did have their concerns in, and it seemed like it might be good to down the road without the time press and with something in place. I mean, most people wanted to feel safe first. That seemed to be the piece, that folks were feeling all that super safe. And then once that is happening, maybe what are the next steps?
Yeah.
So stay keep in the back of everyone's mind that there are still going to be state police.
Yes.
And everybody, I think that the general public will start to forget that and then focusing on us hiring new police, but the state police are still there.
No, and that's what I meant to Jim's response, that the state police are setting themselves up as specialists throughout the state we never see that crime.
They want more higher level.
Yeah.
In the time that we were getting the state police, we were paying time and a half for that, not straight time.
I understand that.
Okay, so it's just
but it was still only came out to 60 grand,
just not getting more.
We're begging for our bucks.
Right, you're getting more hours for the same amount of money if you hire a different police department.
Yeah. Okay, well, again, thank you, you two, and to your colleagues, Mandy, thank you for navigating the ship through here, and,
Yeah, she did a great job. Thank you so much. Yeah, she did great.
Except for I sent myself the copy without the updates. Oh, well,
okay.
we'll get through it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
We'll
both
certainly keep
very
you
much.
posted. Okay. I think we are on old business with the North Hartland bridges. I've just been, to keep things crisp and to the point, I would like to have the board move forward with hiring a structural engineer to look at the two bridges and to put a report together on what their findings are. I would like to do that because we have the potential for a master bridge builder, timber framer, to give us their opinion. But having done 2 timber frame projects in my life, both I needed a structural person to sort of basically say, well, the snow be carried by the roof. So that particular person has an expertise that will contribute to our decisions. V-Trans has special lists that have been looking at it and giving us their weight limits. And I don't know how many other players are involved. So part of what I'm hoping that by bringing in a structural engineer with a charge to look at those 2 bridges and create a report and any findings that may be enable us to up the weight limit would be very useful.
But isn't the first part to talk to Jan Lewandowski to find out, based on the work that he did to rehab?
I'm very happy to continue having that discussion. And what I'm saying is, I don't think we can make a decision on what Dan says any more than we can make a decision on what the state has told us.
No, it is like there's 2 components. It could be that the first bridge, we already know the answer. We just have to get to the right person with the answer. In which case, your structural engineer would only need to look at the bridge that needs to be rehabbed.
I think the structural engineer should probably talk to Jan Lewandowski.
Yeah. But
as part of that, we can get Jan's opinion. But I think that, to me anyways, I wouldn't want to make a decision until we had a structural engineer either verify, not that Jan is going to lie to us or whatever, but to verify Jan's findings.
So that's fine. I would just think if they did that rehab project in 2001, right? Somebody did those plans and they know what the numbers are, right? We're just going to find them. And then we have to worry about the bridge that hasn't been touched in 100 years.
So if we want to do 2 bridges, we might as well do all 3 covered bridges.
That's a good point, Claude.
You know, because you get one, they'll go back to the drawing board again, the Martinsville Bridge.
The difference though is we're using private property for the 2 bridges that we're not using on Martinsville. You are using private roads for people or for heavy deliveries and a farm.
Yeah, I think that needs to be the priority.
That to me should be, but I don't know if I don't think this is gonna be too cheap. I think the other thing too is a structural engineer should be talking with V-Trans as well to see. I feel at times like we're getting to run around with V-Trans, but I agree with you, Clyde. I think we need to do it. Well,
so there's been an assessment done on the Mill Street. What street is it? Martinsville Bridge. I don't know what action was taken after that assessment.
I have no idea.
The one that I read said it needs work. They want to take out flooring to lighten the load because slats look collapsing over the weight of the bridge.
I think this very conversation highlights the jam we're in right now. It's just
Yeah, my only real point is, we might know the answer to the bridge that was done in 2001, right? We might just have to find it, right?
Yeah.
And then we've got to work on Bridge 22, which is the one that's been there for 100 years.
But in the meantime, it's being delayed and they can't get across the local farm who gives,
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with bringing an
I mean,
engineer.
the ambulance is fine.
Twin State is not, Sand and Gravel is not
Yeah.
happy about the arrangement.
Yeah.
So I'm with you guys, bring in an engineer.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that we may have half the answer already, so maybe it'll save some time and money there.
Well, and what I'd like to do tonight is just have our approval that we're going to go down this way. And then I really, there's some homework to be done to make sure that we get the right person, that we bring all the information that's already available to the table and then, have this particular person that we're have a complete report. That we're doing the old and the new.
We need to see the cost estimate to know if this is $100,000 project.
Right.
50.
And just remember, the Vermont state statute, all wood bridge is 8-ton limit.
Correct. It's never gonna be over.
It's just a reminder.
Right, that's
Yep.
Okay, so can we go forward and start to get some cost estimates? Without.
Martin can do a cost estimate without our approval. He can go ask for cost estimates.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts on the North Hartland bridges right now? Okay, Martin, you're on with the current fiscal year budget update.
All right. So through the end of September, the third month of the fiscal year, we are 25% through the budget. I'm going to start with the general fund revenues. And I've put notes at the top of the sheets of which is which.
Can I give you some money to invest?
Please. I believe they're doing 4.5% CDs at Mascoma.
For how long?
6 months. I got $1 million in a 6-month CD.
Yeah, I don't quite have that cash.
You're overpaying. No, you don't.
That's a lot. I believe that's for everybody.
Can you strike anything?
I believe it's for anybody. So if we pull out the tax portion money of it, our revenues year to date through September 30th, fiscal year to date is 23%. So we're pretty much on track as far as revenues that we're expecting in the general fund. Page 2 of the revenues is the I'm sorry, go ahead.
So just one question if I can find it. The Vermont hold harmless, when does that money usually come in?
I should see that usually December or January. Okay. January, I think, is when that comes in.
Because that's really the only gap.
Yes, correct. Yeah, that's our last.
Most of the gap.
Our big gap, yes, you're correct.
Is the anonymous contribution to the walking path in here?
No, it's not. That went to the rec center building fund.
Okay.
I think it's fund 53 or 54. Second page, the rec department's at 23%. Again, they're pretty much right on track. They're tracking well. Summer camp is a big boost in March and April. We did receive the $4,000 Merritt grant, and the library gets their IL grant each year. That's a grant for transportation of books from library to library. So our revenues at this point are pretty much right on track.
So we know the Merck grant is the 4,000 units for one building, right?
That's correct. Well, you can choose 3.
Do we know which one it's going to?
We're going to use the Hartland Library.
Oh.
Yeah, we can't seem to get the right. We can't get the numbers we can't get the answer from the people that did the energy look at a couple of years ago. So
sadly, I think we have to redo whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the building. Because
okay, that was the building.
Yes, because it needs the HVAC system's on life support, so it's just made the most sense.
Oh.
The next is the revenues from the highway department. If you take a look at that, the state of Vermont has paid the first 3 quarters of the fiscal year. I believe they did that to help the towns because of FEMA, because of the flooding. So we have been paid 3 of the 4 quarters from the state of Vermont. And I did transfer the money from the taxes that have been paid so far. The grants and aids, I don't believe we're gonna get that. We did not finish the project because Jennyville got flooded, which was part of our grants and aids project. That has, Rita has told me that has been reserved so we can use it next fiscal year. But we only bought culverts for it.
Grants and aid, is that money we get for ditching?
Yes, correct, on Jennyville. Ditching and culverts, 3 culverts and ditching.
Okay.
About 0.8 of a mile, I think it was. So that'll be next year. We did spend $8,000 for the excavator rental. And we bought the culverts, but obviously we reused them on Jennyville anyways.
Right.
So we will adjust that next year.
But where you used them, you can now get reimbursement from FEMA. Right?
That's correct, yes. Yep, and then you're right. The flooding on Jennyville, that's correct. We're gonna jump back to the general fund expenses. If you go down through it as page 1. General fund expenses, yeah. So if you go to page 2 under assessment, you'll see we are over budget, but we have many July 1st payments we have to do for the beginning of the fiscal year. As you work your way down through it, through the budget, the expenses, you'll see that most departments are pretty much right on track. The rec department's a touch high because summer camp falls in this fiscal year as far as the expenses, but the revenues in the previous year. You'll see I have paid most of the appropriations on page 8. Paid most of the appropriations. You got a couple more to pay after the February collection. So if we take out what we've had to prepay in various departments, we're at 25%. So our budget's right on 25%. This budget this year, David and I had talked about last year. It's a tight budget. We're expecting to pretty much stay right on budget as long as nothing else really comes out of line. So I believe the budget this year will stay close, or we might slightly go over. Questions?
We got one more, but it's saving until the end.
Go ahead.
No, we'll take it through.
Okay.
Highway.
All right. So the highway budget, as you can see, it's over budget at this point only by 1%, but a lot of that's due to the money we've already spent towards fixing the roads, culverts. Otherwise, if we took that out, they would be under budget year to date. KV is about 18%.
So did you just skip right to the bottom line?
Yeah, because there's really, so if you look at, the subcontracting is at $83,000. We've paid, quite a few of the subcontractors for all the work that was done on the 22nd and up through now on the 6 major roads. So that's why looks like that. You look at culverts, it's the same thing. The cost of culverts 3 years ago went absolutely through the roof and they have not come back down. A 4-foot culvert's about $4,850 now. 18-inch culverts are up around $1,900 to $2,100, I think. So the price of culverts went skyrocketed 3 years ago and the price has not settled back down.
But in a lot of that's gonna come back from FEMA.
That's correct, yes. Yeah, FEMA's gonna reimburse 70% and then the state will be 12.5. So, but it's probably a couple of years. Because of the box culvert will be the big one when we do that. I gotta find out. I'm not sure if they refund what we've spent on certain roads and separate it as 2 separate projects, because they did that last time when Mace Road got washed out. So they haven't told me if they're gonna do it as 2 separate projects. So do 5 roads as 1 project and Best Road is its own project. So they haven't.
How expensive.
Right, yes. So they have not said that they were gonna do that. If you look at the hard pack, We've been trucking it into the pit to have it through the winter. So when the Twin State closes for the winter, we have some in stock. So that's also part of that. It's grants and aids, the 8,700 is the rental of the excavator for 30 days. We used it for about a week and a half, 2 weeks before the 21st. Pike is telling Bill that they are staying on track to pave Clay Hill Road.
That was a question I had for you.
So they're telling us they're still on track. I'm expecting that to be $262,000, so that will be $42,000 over what we have budgeted on the line.
I thought it climbed to 270 at some point, so.
Well, they started at 282, and we asked them if they could sharpen their pencil a little bit.
Yeah.
And they did a really nice job.
The road sure needs it.
We're trying to get hold of Ted Knox. We got a couple of trees we wanted to take down, but like everybody else in the weather, he's just so far behind.
Okay.
So they're taking trees.
The two over by the church, the brick church over here, the first two pine trees, and across from Dexter Cooper, there's a tree that needs to come down.
You haven't talked to Don Stebbin?
And we can. I believe Bill's booked it with Ted already, so to come and do it.
Okay.
So that's where the highway department's at this point, as far as for bills.
Okay, any additional questions?
One observation, maybe one question. So if we're gonna go over by 50 grand or whatever the number is on paving, we're gonna decide where that money's gonna come from, right?
It'll come out of surplus. It just follow through. It'll just follow through. So at the end of the year, if we're 50 grand over, and like last year, the highway department was $4,100 over, so just reduce the surplus from 589 to 585.
Okay. And then my other question was really, when we close the fiscal year in the end of June, beginning of July, we should have a big chunk of money there that's technically the ARPA money, right?
That's in the general fund.
It's in the general fund.
Yes.
Right, but there should be a surplus there of, I don't know, 900 to.
That's what there is right now, yes. But we've been spending some of that money.
On Queechee Road.
No, on this building and the rec center.
Yeah.
I haven't done the
projects.
Right, in Jennyville project, I'm spending money as we're going through, so that's coming out also.
But my question really is, where do we put that money? We close the year, right? Do we need to put that money in a separate fund and call it the remaining ARPA money rather than just have it floating someplace?
We won't call it an ARPA money, but we gotta call it something different, but.
The artist formerly known as ARPA?
Yep. I will do some research on that and let you know.
Yeah, that could be a good question for
Bonnie.
Well, for the Regional Planning Commission as well as the LCT, there's a recommendation.
There was somebody from the LCT that came and made, I had their name somewhere, that came and made the recommendation to us.
So just have to carry that over for Soldier and that, so that it doesn't get lost in.
I'll see if I can find the name of the person that came and talked to us back in November. I'll forward that to you.
Okay. Marvin, just as we're looking at this year's budget and Jim's asking questions about the change of the fiscal year, are you finding the time to be working on next fiscal year's budget?
Yeah, I'm pretty far ahead, actually. Tom General was quite surprised how far ahead I was on it.
Good.
So yes.
Okay, excellent. Okay, if there are no other questions, then let's go right to the town manager update.
All right, Roy Coley has put his property up for sale. Roy Coley and I have spoken. He will not sign an indemnifying contract with the town. He said if they find that they think it's a brown area, he will probably sue the town because he feels the town could partially also have affected the property, the way the material was moved. So that's where we stand with Mr. Coley.
I guess I'm not surprised, just given the history of that Well, there's interchange.
And Medicaid is also involved with it because obviously Fred has passed, so it's moved on to his wife, and any monies that they get with her being down in, I believe she's in the Scotney home.
Oh, sorry. You lost me on that. So they're
so
garnishing some of the.
they could garnish the money on the sale of the property, yes.
I thought we had first names.
I don't know how that, what we do, the deed has been, there's an $87,000 judgment against the deed.
Okay, so.
Okay.
I need to get mine.
I don't know how that
I
works.
believe we're probably in first
I think
position.
so.
Yeah, so I'm just putting everything out there that him and I discussed when we talked last week.
So we don't have to make any decisions until the property has a purchase and sale.
That's correct, yes.
And if I was buying it, I would want to know about that.
Yes, yeah, because when you search the deed, you'll see that, that'll be the first thing that comes up. Or whoever searches the deed. That'll be the first thing that comes up. Is that correct, Clyde? That'll be the first thing that comes up if they search the deed?
Well, whoever the buyer's lawyer will do a search, and they'll find any nitty gritty that's recorded up there.
Yep. Okay. FEMA is on everybody's mind. The following 6 roads have been submitted to FEMA: Best Road, Brownsville Road, Town Farm Hill Road, Jennyville Road, Reeves Road, and Densmore Hill Road. They've all been submitted to Rosa, who's our contact. I did not give her an estimate on Jennyville or on Densmore because I don't have any numbers yet. And I told her I'll give them to her as soon as I can. Bill and I get a bill and we can get it. Densmore was fixed last week, and I believe it was graded the day after it was fixed.
Is Rosa, the FEMA person, comfortable with not having that exact number?
Yes, yep. She sent me an email saying what I owed her, and I told her I would get it to her as soon as possible. I will now start working on the spreadsheet. That's the fix of the first spreadsheet sent out was the inventory of the roads. The second spreadsheet is the fix of the roads.
Okay.
So I have 2 done. I got 2 roads put together. I have more put together, but I haven't put them in the spreadsheet yet.
Okay.
So I'm slowly but surely working on that work.
Yeah.
As you can see, Best Road, if we don't upgrade that to the 7-foot culvert and it washes out in another storm, FEMA will not pay for it. So we will have to move forward with a 7-foot box culvert.
Yeah, there's a piece on public radio that people may have heard possibly this morning, if not the last day or so. They were interviewing folks at the state saying that given the events that have happened between the hurricane 11 years ago and the July storms, any work that they are doing needs to be proactive and be oversizing to get ready for what may be coming. So.
Yes, Jim.
But if we're going to upgrade to that box culvert, they will pay for the work that's already done.
We have 36 months.
But the work, we already put money in the Best Road.
Yes,
Put a
that's correct.
4-foot culvert in. They're going to pay for that now.
Yes.
And then if we go forward with the new culvert, within 3 years, they'll pay for that.
Emergency versus permanent repair.
Right. It's considered an emergency repair at this point.
So I just want to make sure there's no delay in the money we already spent. What about Katy Brook, right? Because we fixed that culvert as well.
The town paid for that.
Okay. Is it something?
It was not a town culvert in the beginning. It was personal.
Are we sure? Because again, I think our policy says we'll maintain.
Right, but now John Samuel took care of that for all these past years.
Yeah. Should we get clarification to see if, since it's a legal trail, and we do some maintenance on it?
So that was technically not
Statutory, you don't have to.
You don't have to maintain a legal trail, but there was something in our policy, I think. How about I do this? How about I look for the policy and I'll send you any information from it that seems relevant.
Yeah. Legal trail or class 4.
Are you making a distinction because they're different?
They're different.
A legal trail is different than a class 4 road. So is it a legal trail or a class 4 road?
I believe it to
There's
be
a legal trail.
I believe it to be illegal.
But then we're not required to do anything.
Right, but I guess there's two things to check. One, verify it's a legal trail, right?
And we're talking about the short section.
Yeah.
Of the
Driveway, right. And the second would be to determine whether it's a legal trail or a class 4 road, what's our policy?
Yeah.
In terms of maintenance.
Okay, Martin.
Three Corners project, we had a meeting on the 6th. I'll start with the telephone pole that's still standing. The telephone pole may still be standing in the spring. Green Mountain Power has run all the wires underground and they have been working diligently to get their wires out of the air. That's what they're working on at this point. The other three utilities have put their head in the sand and Rita has heard crickets from all of them. The pole over by, the brand new pole by the hairdresser, that they had to move 3 feet for the sidewalk. Comcast needs a ditching from that pole towards the library because the wire that they have is 4 inches and it's one of the main wires in the area. There's no guide wires holding the new telephone pole, so that's why they feel they need the ditching. Green Mountain Power has said they can do a slack, which means, you know how a wire just kind of hangs?
Yeah.
So they've allowed Comcast to do a slack in the meantime, because so it won't be as tight on the wire. And again, we've heard absolutely nothing from any of the utilities. So Rita reached out to me today on my thoughts. I told her I think her and GPI, I think her as the project coordinator, and GPI need to come up with a statement sent to those 3 utilities stating they need to give us an answer, they need to get going. They've had 150 days to have a plan, or the select board's gonna have to write a letter to the
Public service.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm ready to do it.
So she's gonna get with Mr. Travers and see what we should do.
Right. Do any of us know any members of the public service?
I work on, that's where I work.
I wouldn't have admitted that.
We're talking about the PUC or the public service?
Yeah, so I work for public service department, but we work with public utility
So it's
commission.
the utility side that we're after.
So that's
You go
PUC.
to the top, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's get this first step, but I don't want to hesitate. I want to get our document right to them.
Yeah, I agree. VHB, Phil and myself are still working on the lighting plan. Phil, myself, Dan, and VHB met by Zoom. It's gonna be at least 3 weeks now.
It's a long time ago.
At least 3 weeks, if not 4 weeks. So they're working on a lighting plan. There's gonna be various grants available next year when we need to do it, so we should not have to pay for the whole project. We will have to pay up front for the project, and then we will get reimbursed after we spend the money on the project. Wind Environment came and ran a camera in the back drainage here. So what it is it's a 4-inch PVC pipe that goes into a 6-inch serrated pipe that goes into like a 100-foot holding cell, like a cistern. The water goes there, sits there, evaporates, and
which is underground.
Underground, out back here, yes.
Okay.
So is that handle the volume?
Yes, because the parking lot's never been flooded, as long as I've been here. Nobody's ever seen it flooded, so I believe it's gotta be deep enough, because this year it would have flooded if it was not deep enough.
And there was no issues.
It's like 100 feet, yeah, no, he said there's no issues, it looks good.
And that report will go to the architect.
I've already sent it.
Firm.
Yeah, I've already sent it, and they did the culvert, and so in front of the stairs to go upstairs to the rec, on the Route 12 side, there's a drain there, it goes under the exit driveway of the rec, and the culvert looks okay. The end of it needs to be cleaned out, and the swale needs to be redone, which we can do as a town with the backhoe next year. Bill and Larry spoke about it.
When we get these reports, let's make sure they're filed in some place that we can find future colleagues can find them.
Yeah, absolutely. Troy Williams is our new hire at the town. We had an interesting meet, him and I, and it was pretty funny. Someday I'll tell you the story. He started October 2nd. He's a great guy, has a great character, and I think he's gonna liven the old boys up a little bit. I think he's gonna be a great asset. I know he is.
So we're up to full staff and.
We're up to full staff.
Save a CDL?
He has a CDL.
Nice.
Our red dump truck is at Lebanon Ford. We're not sure what's wrong with it, so we're hoping to find out what's going on with that. The tractor is fixed. The tractor will be heading back to town. Spark plugs just filled full of soot. They ran it for about 5 hours.
No spark plug.
All right, yeah, okay, glow plugs or whatever they have, coil packs, that's it,
Okay,
the coil packs.
yeah.
He had me believe in it.
I tried, he tried to get it under warranty, couldn't get under warranty, it was 25 hours. They gave us a 25% discount, it still ended up at $7,200. They drove it for 5 to 6 hours and said that it seems better than it was when we first bought it.
Seems better.
I can only tell you what they tell me. So Colt worked it in, so we just gotta go.
One of us had mentioned that early MON question.
Yeah.
We should have, when it's back, let's get the serial number and the actual model.
Yeah.
And I can do that research.
Okay. I get it upstairs. I'll get it to you. I'll email it to you tomorrow.
Yeah. It's just I'm from the automotive world, recalls are filed publicly. I don't know in the John Deere Kubota.
I don't know about the tractors, because I asked Colt, I said, this is under warranty, right? He says, oh, no, it's really not, but we're gonna take care of 25% of it.
It's pollution control.
Yep, right.
Okay.
That's all I have?
Okay.
You're welcome.
Martin, you and Jim did some work on the finances with FEMA. Is that the topic you guys were working on, or what were you working on?
Oh, no, the Three Corners project.
Three Corners. Are there any updates there or things?
I mean, I'll just do it off the top of my head. I think the expenses are easily tracked. We know the expenses, and the expenses are coming in, looks like roughly $50,000 to $60,000 over budget. Although there are still some unknowns with the telecoms. Will they stick to their estimate, for example? Mm-hmm. The good news is that $50,000 to $60,000, we had that $224,000 contingency. Mm-hmm. So we won't use all of it, right? We'll use some of it.
Yeah.
The hard part, at least for me, not knowing Merritt and not being able to see things like that, it's a little bit complicated because for the grants, we've got to spend the money, right? We've got to pay the bill and they get reimbursed with grant money. In the flow of what we're spending and what's coming back in for reimbursement, and then using that money to pay additional bills, that flow is not real clear.
Gotcha.
So we know that we've got about $300,000 left on the bond bank.
Yes.
We know
well, now we're down to 76.
You already wrote out, you wrote out. So
$301,000.
$301,000,
on the report.
So we know we got about $250,000 or so back in grant money.
Yes, that's correct.
So that whole cycle, I don't really know for sure how much cash we have left before we have to dip into that highway fund. But when we do dip into it, it will be less than what we originally thought it would be.
So what will happen is the Three Corner Project Fund 44 will become negative. And when we get done paying the bills, whatever that negative balance is would be the money from the highway surplus to make that fund whole.
All right. So I could probably come up with a reasonable estimate of what that number is that we'll have to take from the highway fund.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Correspondence.
The school. Lindsay and I played tag for about 3 weeks to get hold of each other. She's writing about the Hartland, about the 17-acre woods. I guess David was against a solid structure being built down there. I don't know if the board was or if it was David. I'm not sure the history of that, so you'll have to bear with me on that. So she asked if, request the Hartland Elementary School staff students the ability to build some permanent structures in the 17 acres. The Hartland Elementary School is working with timber and stone to have an accessible area for all students at the Hartland Elementary School. This will give everybody an opportunity to spend time learning outside. The structures could look like lean-tos, sheds, etc. If there's further questions regarding the outdoor space, please feel free to reach out.
I have lots of questions.
Yeah.
Do we want to put her on the agenda?
Details.
Put her on the agenda?
Just ask her for exact details.
Okay, yeah.
And we're welcome to have her on the agenda. And what is the status of the work by timber and stone? Was that started?
I don't know that answer.
Is there an Act 250 jurisdiction on that?
No, I don't believe so. It's going across the wetlands. This is a big organization, and the Conservation Commission did the initial legwork of lining up the work. She implies timber and stone, as I read this, is involved with the structures, and I doubt that's true. So we need more information.
Okay, absolutely.
And I think it was just David Solo that said no permanent structures down there. Have folks been down there at all?
I have.
Okay.
My children, attend school,
Took
obviously.
classes there.
Yeah, and so I helped out when they were down there, and it's pretty amazing, for the kindergarten kids, they actually do Wednesday in the woods, so they go down every single Wednesday, regardless of the
Snow,
weather.
rain.
Does not matter, and I thought my daughter, who is not a fan at the time, when she was, she got cold very easily, she went down, she never once complained, she had a great time.
I agree with you, Mandy. It's a fabulous program. It's actually gotten some national coverage on public TV. And I'm all for it. And I would hope my colleagues would be too, but we need to understand more about
What
what's
they're doing,
happening.
exactly, yeah.
Okay, we have two, if there's no other correspondence, we have two
That's all I got.
sessions. Let's do the Merritt Campbell first, so we can keep Morton
to the curb.
And then John and Grace,
Well,
do the motion.
we've got to make a couple of motions on.
Yeah, okay. There will be an action on the first executive session.
Yeah, but this should be relatively short.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the first motion that I'd like to make is that the documentation or review or portion thereof is exempt from public inspection pursuant to 1 V.S.A. 317 C7.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And then the second motion I would like to make is that we enter executive session to discuss the Merritt Campbell request pursuant to 1 VSA 313 A6.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great.
you know.
I'll text you before.
One, go.
Okay, I would entertain,
Action.
Yep, there you go.
So we've returned from executive session to open meeting.
right, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve a request to appropriate $716 from the Merritt Campbell Fund.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mandy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. We now have a second executive session.
And I'll make a motion to enter executive session to discuss appointment, employment, or evaluation of a public officer or employee under 1 V.S.A. 313A3.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.